Hi everyone, my name is Kendrick and welcome to ENFP Mail. Today I get to interview Reggie. So Reggie, welcome man.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So Reggie, you got your official typing results recently. Well, not recently, like last year? Is it?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah. What was your exact typing result?
Yeah, so it was uh an ENFP jumper. So it was NETE, play blast, consume, missing sleep or sleep last,
Yeah,
and audio.
masculine, feminine.
Mhm.
So we are the exact same type. Uh, how did you feel and what did you think when you got your typing results back?
Um, I would say at the time I wasn't really I didn't really process it. I guess that's not a surprise, right? But I actually was originally calling for like help. Like I wasn't even doing a video typing, although I was very fascinated by the time. I was calling more so for help, but as we were talking, I've talked to both Dave and Shan during that time like multiple times, and they kind of settled on that. So that's actually so yeah, it's kind of an unconventional form of typing.
And what did you like? So that was last year. What about now? How do you feel and what do you think of
Yeah,
it?
so I would say now it's been more confusing because now I've actually taken the time to actually like settle in and try to use the animals and the functions to kind of orient myself when it comes to the recurring problems or situations that I have. And that's when it really kind of messed with me and like my mind has really been kind of going through it's like oh are they sure like am I not self above tribe like I'm now going through the whole like what's my type like crisis.
Now you the some of the stuff you were quite certain that it was right. So sleep last, for example. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So what is it about sleep last? Like what kind of problems in your life have you had from that sleep last?
I mean, like, well, let me be clear. There are still times where I still try and convince myself I'm sleep first, which is weird. But when I take a step back and look at my life and look, and more importantly for me, look at the feedback I consistently get from other people, it's very much sleep last problems. So, for example, at work, I'm often described as someone who like doesn't know how to take a break. I think one of like someone described me as like someone who's constantly on a treadmill. Like it's like you don't know how to stop. You're kind of spinning your wheels. You're trying to help everybody. And then also just like at home or like it often manifests as I take on too many projects. That's actually how I would describe it. I take on too many projects at once, and then like the crash is I get overwhelmed or exhausted, and then all of it like hits at once. I'm like, all right, I don't know, I have to like deal with all this now.
So what kind of tasks do you take on usually? Like what like so you're an ENFP, so you're gonna be gathering tons of stuff and you have a lot of interests, right? So can you
Yeah.
give us an example of like all the different interests that you have and like and then
Uh.
yeah, go ahead. Let's start with that.
Um. I don't know if you want to hear all those. Okay, so I would say for starters, I have work. I work in sales, so it's almost designed for gathering, at least on the front end when you're prospecting. So you're gathering a lot of potential leads, a lot of potential like deals, things like that. But even that gets difficult to track. Um, there's extracurricular stuff at work that you can be doing for your teammates and things like that. I would say the vast majority of the projects are like in my personal life. So I would get into like online courses. I would like get into OP. I got like I'm trying to juggle OP. I have like a book club or two book clubs, right? Book club and a Bible club. It's like I'm juggling that. I have like all these other miscellaneous things that I'm working on. I have like two blogs that are like I'm kind of like half-assing. Um uh like there's other stuff, but it's like you get the point.
Yeah. What industry do you work at like for your day job?
It's consumer electronics or like IT really. I think they're trying to switch to more of an IT brand. But they're more known for like office like multifunction devices. So
Gotcha. And then what about the two blogs that you half asked? What is the topic for those?
well, one of them is like my baby. So Tumblr is one where I really kind of I would describe it as more of like my SF outlet. So it's very much it's like a very like it's a very it's very structured. Like it's like I look for aesthetics that not just appeal to me, but they kind of fit certain categories that I'm trying to like understand from a philosophical perspective. So I'm usually organizing it that way. I'm putting quotes there. The other one, that one's totally like I don't know what I'm gonna be doing with that yet, but it it's kind of like a it's like a it's like a text blog where I'm more so writing. That was the idea, but like I haven't really kind of followed through on that too much.
So it's kind of like just your outlet for your sleep, because like you have to go inside and think your,
Yeah,
yeah, thoughts and feelings.
yeah. I would say yeah, sleep and blast too though, because you have to organize and communicate it. Like for me, I communicate with an audience in mind on that one, so it's gonna be blast as well.
Now, do you agree with the play first? Like, do you feel like you're play first?
I was debating play and consume, like, but when I do the math, play makes the most sense. Like for me, like with my type, it's kind of like I trust the math. Like I don't know if I always agree with the animal order, but when I think about the math, I'm like, okay, I very much have the tribe above self in like tidal waves. So the fact that that's first and the fact that I'm gathered means I must be play even though I don't feel like that.
Gotcha. That makes sense, because I feel the same way, but it makes sense. Um, what about your FI? So you said before that you have always been juggling between self above tribe or tribe above self. Is it because
Yeah.
you feel like your FI is very strong? Is that why, or?
It's um no, actually. I would say my F like it's more along the lines of it's because I feel like I isolate myself a lot. Like I like that's actually what it would be. It's like I don't seem to have the stereotypical behaviors of someone who's high play, where I'm like always going out. I'm not that type of person. Um, but what I would say is that my FI is not strong enough to overcome the tribe. Like I hide it a lot. So that's why the math makes more sense to say tribe above self for me.
Okay, well that makes sense, because I think most ENFPs they don't like to go crazy and like going out all the time and stuff. They like to,
Yeah,
yeah, stay home and stuff. So like I'm the same way. I don't like I have a lot of energy, but I like to stay home. Like we're in lockdown right now, right? I actually feel happier being at home than
yeah. I didn't even notice it. Like people are complaining, and I'm like, I don't understand. Like, what's the big deal? Like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Like I feel fantastic. But anyways,
yeah.
um, so tell us about your TE. Are you very good with your TE? Like, do you always do things to make sure that it works for the tribe, or?
I would say like this is gonna sound really TE of me, I guess, or at least DE of me. It's like I feel like other people have trained me to be good at TE, right? Like especially when I was growing up, it's like I was fortunate enough to find a community that kind of like I still consider myself a very illogical person, but it's like they kind of taught me. It's like I don't know. It's not like they kind of sat me down and taught me, but like that community was very thinker focused. So I'm talking about like the people I grew up with, like in high school and college. We're having debates all the time, we're arguing all the time, and it's like I had to kind of learn. Okay, this is how I can express myself, right? And also in academia, it helps a lot because it's like you're creating projects and you're writing papers, and you have that outlet. So yeah, I would say for me, I feel like I was raised in a good environment for my TE.
Did you find that you gravitated towards more NT kind of people, just because maybe because you are an NT? Because I felt like growing up, I had a lot of NT friends, you know. So
I don't like. I think for me, I wasn't pick. I I think I was not as picky with my friends because I think that my DE or let's say my demon FI didn't feel like I deserved to be picky. Like I just kind of hung around the people I was with,
well,
and
let's talk
that
about,
and there's pros and cons to that, you know.
well, can you elaborate on that? Like, what do you mean? Like your introvert feeling didn't feel like it deserved
Yeah,
to
like
be with friends?
I like I mean, I really do. It's a problem. Like it's and it's something I have to overcome. But I really do have a like throughout my life, this insecurity of like I'm not like good enough, like basically, like it's like I'm not like I'm kind of broken somehow. So it's like I can't really be super assertive and say, oh yeah, I should be hanging out with this person or I should be hanging out with that person. I would imagine that occasionally, but when it actually came down to interacting with people, I would just kind of collapse and be like, okay, let me just, you guys probably know better. That's kind of that was the assumption.
Where did that feeling of like broken come from? Like, was that?
Where did it come from? I don't know if it's aware. I mean, that's the benefit of objective personality for me. I don't think it comes from like some past experience. I think it's like wiring.
Gotcha. Okay, so you feel like it's more genetics as opposed to like environment.
Yeah.
All right. What about SI? Do you have like? Can you give us an example of like some SI tidal waves that you've had?
Uh, I mean, uh, like where do I start with that? SI tidal waves would be, I would say work, since work is pretty easy for me to think about right now. A lot of the times, okay, so for me, let's say there's a project coming up, or let's say there's a deadline coming up. It's like, okay, and I know, for example, I need to submit this credit approval for this particular industry to blah blah blah, right? I know the process. I just don't want to do it though. So it's like I'm just gonna kind of wait, right? Just kind of the classic. I'm waiting last minute. I'm waiting last minute. I'm procrastinating, and then all of a sudden, typically what ends up happening is something will happen where I need it either sooner than I thought I would, or it will be the day of, and I'm scrambling, and the process takes longer than I thought it would,
Yeah.
and then I'm freaking the hell out, and I'm stressing everybody out. I get into full play mode. I'm like bothering, like I'm harassing everybody. I'm calling everybody. And I'm like, hey, like I need help with this. They're like, dude, you knew about this. So yeah, I would say the tidal wave. That's one clear example of a tidal wave of being afraid of known information and being punished for not dealing with it as soon as possible.
Have you worked on that SI then since then or not?
Uh, I mean, no, like not the future pacing version. I still get, because it's like it's a very deep anxiety that I have that I don't know how to pass when it comes to the future pacing. Like there's certain things I can do when it comes to habits that reduce the likelihood of that. So it's almost like I trick my body to not even think about the future, be like, okay, let's do these little habits. And oh, it just so happens that was something that you needed 3 weeks from now. That's great. But it's like, if I know something's coming 3 weeks from now, it's like, I won't look at it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But you have masculine SI still, so do you feel like you're still pretty good with like memory, or you can remember stuff factually?
Yeah. And that's the worst thing about the tidal wave. It's not like I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like that's where the masculine SI will punch me and be like, yes, like you knew this was gonna happen. And you knew how, like you knew, maybe you didn't know exactly how to do it, but you knew that you had enough time to figure it out instead of like on the spot right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
What about your NE? So the opposite of your SI is NE. So you have feminine NE. So do you feel like you're always forgetting patterns or concepts, and like
Yeah. Kind of. I would say the way I would describe it is my NE and my SI do cooperate, actually. Like in the sense of, like, even if I won't remember the pattern, I will remember either the person or the location of that pattern. So it's like whenever I need to remember it, it'll go to my SI first, and it'll be like, okay, you need to look here, and it'll be there. And they'll be like, oh yeah, by the way, yeah, okay. So that's how that works.
Yeah, I do that too. That makes sense. that sounds kind of funny that you mentioned that, because you know where to look for it, even though you forgot what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're a double decider, so are you really balanced with self and tribe? Would you say like you're pretty?
I would say like relatively. I think I definitely could improve in both areas. But I don't go all in on calling someone good or evil. I like it, like to the point where I get annoyed when people do that shit. It's like, dude, this is not that deep. Like, let's just work. Yeah, like that's where I get relatively calm. It's like, okay, we're not perfect, but this is not. We shouldn't be fighting each other over like, oh, this person's XYZ. It's like, who cares? You're probably just as bad. So let's just move on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for example, like people blow their heads off with like Donald Trump, right? So you're probably like right in the middle then. Like
I don't even follow politics.
yeah, you don't give a shit.
I don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. You're masculine, feminine. So are you very good with auditory? Like, is your main mode of learning like listening?
Yeah. So I would say yeah, and I think that started tracking very early on, because initially my interest was very, like, I guess it still is, but I was originally interested in being a musician, and I think that's why. Like, because I was very good and very interested in the auditory patterns, and I still am. Like, so I listen, like, I think that's why I like YouTube so much, because I can replay something over and over again and just process it that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say yeah, I think I'm actually really good at it.
What about the kinesthetic stuff? Like, do you like to work out and stuff? Because you know.
Do I like to work out? I like it's hard to get into the swing of things, but once I'm in the swing of it, I get really intense with it. Yeah. Like, so there was once a time where I was trying to become a personal like fitness trainer, and like that was where I really tapped into the kinesthetic side. It's like I would have like my music, I would like get into that really aggressive mode, and it's like I would not to be dramatic, but it's like I really would just kind of lose myself in the workout and just kind of push myself as much as possible. Yeah.
So you wanted to be a personal trainer at one point, or is that what you said?
Yeah, at one point. At one point, yeah.
Yeah, I see. That's my day job actually. I'm a personal trainer.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's kind of funny that we're doing the same, thinking of the same shit. I was in sales too.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny that you're mentioning all this stuff. But let me see. What about what was the question I had here? So you have feminine TE, right? So do you feel like you get bullied by the tribe easily because it's like
Yeah.
you get bulldozed more easily?
Yeah, like yes, until you start, until like really until you enter my masculine demon territory, because I like the moment you start arguing against me again with something that I know and I actually give a shit about, I'll destroy you. Like that's where the line is drawn.
So when they trigger your masculine FI, that's kind of like shit hits
It's
the fan.
both. No, it has to be both. Because masculine FI isn't enough if I don't have any solid facts to stand on. You can trigger my masculine FI, but I've learned from experience if I'm just arguing with my feminine NE, it's too unstable.
Right.
Right. So I need both to kind of push.
Do you find that you get aggressive with that because you are an info dominant? Like for you, having the most accurate information is super important?
No, like I think I think the aggression only comes when you combine my two demons, because it's a masculine inner world. You can be inaccurate, but if I don't care about it, I'm not like, that's whatever. Like, I'll know it, but it's like all right, whatever. Like, this is not a big deal. We'll fix it.
Gotcha. So you won't freak out about the like accuracy of
Yeah.
the information as long as you know it already. Gotcha. Okay. I'm gonna ask you a question now
Sure.
about that. So they said that double deciders have the fear, have a problem with fear, and the problem with fear for ENFPs is the SI. So
Yeah.
let's talk about like the "don't control me, bro" kind of syndrome. So like how do you react when someone's trying to control you? You know, like trying to.
This is actually something I was thinking about. I think for me, I'm more afraid of, how do I explain this? I think the source of the sorry, I need to like word this correctly. Like, it's, since my demons are both introverted, I'm more afraid of being trapped by my shitty self than the tribe.
Can you
I'm
elaborate?
more afraid of it's like it's I'm more afraid of my FI controlling me than TE.
Oh, really? That's weird.
Yes.
Why is that?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, so let me try and break this down like mathematically. If tribe above self, their fear is not good enough. Your identity is worthless, right? Unless you do something. Okay. So you have that. Then you have the EP fear, of control or being trapped, right? So if you combine those two, at least in my experience, what you get is you're afraid of being trapped by your own weaknesses or you not being good enough. Like you're trapping yourself. Like it's almost like you're trapped by like determinism or something like that, right? It's like so for me, for example, like I'm more afraid that me as an ENFP is gonna fuck my life up than someone else. That's what terrifies me.
So you're scared of yourself, your own type, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I'm scared of my own identity, like given that for me, like my identity is so negative.
Okay. What do you mean it's negative? Like,
Like okay. I'm trying to think of like a really easy example. Like, okay, so let me use work again. So let's say there's a new like, this happens a lot actually. Let's say there's a new prospect, the everything's going well. Okay? Things seem to be going great. I will start freaking out that I'm gonna ruin it. Right? It's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna somehow mess something up. Like what I'm doing isn't working. I'll have an SI structure, but I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not working. I need to try something new. I'll start, and then I'll get into like a very insecure play blast mode. And that actually, like, and the tidal wave will be, I'll actually scare some of these people away, but then I'll use that as evidence of, oh, it was my patterns that controlled me to ruin this. So I need to change, right? That's how I would explain it for myself.
that sounded very NF. That's pretty confusing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like NF hippie talk right there.
Okay, well,
No,
I don't
it's
know.
all good. It's all good, man.
I don't know how to explain that.
No, it's all good. It's all good. I don't relate to it because for me, my fear is more like people with masculine FE trying to control me what I should value when I don't value what they value.
Oh,
It's a little,
well, like, is it a fear though, or just more like an irritation though?
that's my biggest trigger point, like irritant. You know, like
Okay, no, I get so that's a different thing for me. Like I'll get irritated, like when people start controlling me over stupid shit. Yes, I get very annoyed. I'll get like I will become the stereotypical EP,
yeah,
but I like maybe that's why I sounded more NF. It's like that's not my core fear though. Like it's like I feel like because maybe that's part of the double decider thing. It's like I still feel like with the tribe I can deal with them. It's like I'm super annoyed, but it's like I can deal with this somehow. Like we'll figure this out.
right, fair enough. Okay, I'm trying to think about what you just said earlier. Okay, well, you know what? That train of thought has
Yeah.
gone. So, your NF sounds pretty good though, because you were like going like
Yes. So I mean, this is what's confusing. This is what confused me, right? Like,
yeah.
I've actually had conversations with other people in the OP community, and just with my own life experience, I'm like I don't know if my like I do feel like my FI is a demon, but it still feels pretty strong. Like, or competent. Like, so I'm like, I don't know if I'm lying to myself. I don't know if that's where I was starting to be like, okay, maybe I'm consumed or maybe I'm something else.
Well, you're blasting a lot too, but your NF is pretty good though. So like your blast and your NF is like pretty like you know what do you call it?
Yeah, I mean they're relatively balanced though, either
Yeah,
way.
that's why it's more confusing because it's like I can see the play. That's obvious. You're an NT. That's obvious too. But like your NF is it's pretty good, and but then your blast is also pretty good. So it's like
Yeah, but
which is first, right? Like you know.
which is first.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say to kind of answer that, and I know we haven't gotten there yet, but we could kind of jump to that animal.
Yeah.
Like consume, I do think for like consume is technically a demon for me, and that's actually pretty obvious for me. I would like I have very little patience with like genuinely new things that like that I'm not learning from other people. Like it's actually frustrating because I'm like for me this is where I start getting like, okay, how do I know if this book is any good? Like how do I know I'm wasting my time, right? It's like why can't you just tell me what I need to know from this book and I can tell someone else about it. Like I really want the spark notes of a lot of things.
Oh, you wanted to get straight to the point, like
Yeah.
yeah, like you know, like I don't want to go through all this BS. Let's go.
Yeah,
You
and that does get me in trouble.
Yeah, you want the
Yeah,
bullet. Yeah.
yeah, that does get me in trouble too. Like, especially when you're in a situation where um you need to blast, but then you realize you're not as competent as you thought you were.
So would you agree that you have blast over consume then?
Yeah.
And then what's your opinion of your blast? Like would you say you're pretty competent at doing public speaking or presentations or teaching
Yeah.
from your notes?
But like it's I'm let me put it this way. I can present really well, but I think your blast is only as good as your consume, honestly. Because it's like if you don't actually have a deep knowledge, or at least like a sufficient knowledge of what's going on, you're gonna start blasting, and then you're gonna start bullshitting very fast.
Well, Davis
Right?
consume. He's pretty damn good. So
That's true. Like, but I would say like with Dave, let me not go there.
yeah, that's fine.
Like I think yeah, I'd have to think about that, I guess. But yeah, maybe that's a good point.
Yeah. Okay, but would you say that your blast is a lot better than your consume, or is it closer? Do you think it's like?
I think it's not like, so this is where I have a problem. It's like it's not like any of my, like, I think I'm quote unquote good at all my animals. It's just the amount of time I do on each of them. I spend way less time on genuine consume than on blast. So it's a time issue.
But you're still gathering a lot. So you're
Yeah.
gathering a lot, but you're not consuming as much as blasting. So it's a little bit of like a contradiction almost. So like what's happening there? Like you're
Well, I
gathering,
mean, yeah, but it's I gather through my play. It's like I gather through other people.
but you watch a lot of YouTube videos too, right? So you're consuming.
Yeah, but I think even my YouTube is more a manifestation of play than consume, because I would much rather watch someone react to a movie than watch the movie, for example.
Oh, I see, I see. You want the reaction instead of the.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't want to, like, and they'll tell me what the fuck happened. I'm like, excuse me, I don't know if we could curse here,
Oh, you
but
can
it's like,
as much you want.
okay, yeah, it's like you just told me how the movie is. I'm not gonna go waste 2-3 hours watching a dumb movie if like everyone's talking about it. Like, but for me, it does become too addicting, because it's like even after I know it's good, I won't then, like, I'll rarely then go actually consume the new thing.
Yeah.
And what I'm realizing is that you lose a lot of the nuance when you do that. And I think you can only see nuance when you do genuine consume.
Gotcha. Okay. Ah, that's interesting because I love to watch stuff that people didn't even tell me about. Like I love like reading novels and like watching. But yeah, okay, that's interesting. It could be like a person by person kind of basis kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they said that people who are EPs and IJs are obsessed with things, while people who are IPs and EJs are obsessed with people. So tell us about your things obsession. Like what are some of your obsession with things? Like information is probably a thing also.
I've never thought about it. That's a good question. Like, I just saw it as a it has to be there, right? Just mathematically, I have to be obsessed with things somewhere.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Let me give you an example, and then you can give your.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I've always thought my girlfriend was some sort of EP, and until recently, when I was really like thinking what she was saying, and I'm like, oh my god, it's always people, her annoying coworkers, annoying people around her, and always people, and then it's like, oh, look at this person on YouTube, like this person.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. And then I look at my EJ friends too, and they're like, what about this person? What about this person? And what about this?
Yeah.
And I'm like, who gives a shit? Like, fuck those people. Like, let's talk about this here, Like,
yeah. So, okay, I got you. So I would say the way my thing, like, maybe this is NE, because it's not physical things. It's theories or it's concepts that I'll talk for a long ass time about. So it's gonna be philosophies. I like Nietzsche a lot. I like GTD a lot. I like OP a lot, right? That's where I'll get really hung up. I'm like, oh my God, like savior this, or oh my God, like this thing. Like, that's where I will get very like annoyingly like obsessed.
Do you go to like Wikipedia and go in a rabbit hole, like reading about random shit, like, or
I used to more so, but um not as much anymore. I think YouTube has become my vice partially because of the audio. I don't like it. I force myself to read, but I can listen to things for a long time.
so you're absorbing better through listening then? Like just
Yeah, I think so.
so audiobooks is gonna be like the best or YouTube.
I, Surprisingly not though. I actually don't like audiobooks.
Oh, how come? That's kind of
But
interesting.
like I think like audiobooks frustrate me for some reason because it's like um I think with audiobooks they're not moving at the pace I want them to move usually, or they're not saying it the way I want to hear it. Like that sounds really like FI, I guess. It's like they're not saying it the way I want to hear it. So it's like I'm like I don't bother with it.
Oh, really? That's kind of, what do you mean? Like, how do you want to hear it? Like,
I don't know. Like see that's the thing. I don't know. It's just like I just know. I'm like I don't want to deal with this. Like I'd much rather listen to a podcast or like YouTube than like an audio book.
oh, I see.
Maybe
I see.
because
So you prefer to watch the play interaction versus like someone blasting at you?
yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, because the audiobooks is like one dude just talking to you, right? Like,
Yeah,
the lesson one, lesson two,
yeah,
Yeah, it's not like there's no dynamic, there's no emotion. It's just like, you know,
yeah,
there's the info. Take it,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Earlier today, I did my first YouTube live, and this is when I first realized, not realized, but kind of accepted finally that I have blast over consume,
Okay.
because after I did the YouTube live, I realized that the video that I recorded, so EP, I'm obsessed with things, right? So like I was like,
Yeah.
why the hell is that my live video was smooth, but then when it went to YouTube, after it finished processing, it was choppy, and it was like,
Yeah.
it was driving me freaking crazy. So afterwards, I went on a massive consume rabbit hole, but only after I had blasted, like after I had done the presentation already, you know? And
Right. So you're consuming as a means to help your blast.
it was because when I blasted and I had the finished product, there
Mhm.
was clearly, it was not the finished product that I was looking for, and it pissed me off, right? So
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit, like, had I consumed this beforehand, I would have known I would have avoided the pitfall of like having that laggy post-production,
Yeah.
but I consumed so well right afterwards. So I was like, oh shit, okay, so I need to blast first. Sometimes, when you blast to, you're thinking to yourself, am I full of shit? Then you need to consume now, right? To kind of like double check your work,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. So I can relate to that. And I could even feel myself getting into the observer. Like I was getting sucked into the story. I was like, oh my God, this is so real.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say like I think it comes down to a respect thing. Because I felt like I can relate to that. It's like honestly, would you really have consumed before blasting if you're like from like let me reword that. For me, it's I don't respect something I'm reading, to be completely honest. I'm like, hey, I'll figure it out, and once I figure it out, I'll know which of all this shit is relevant, because none of this could be relevant to me, right? And I think that's the problem. I think that's the problem that blasters see, or blast above consume see with consume. It's like I might be reading something that's irrelevant to my blast actually. So maybe that's something, I don't know.
Yeah, man, I think you're spot on, because like sometimes, yeah, like you said, you're consuming, right? But you don't know what you're gonna do. Like, what are you gonna use this information for, right? Like, you got all this
Yeah.
now what, right? But then when you blast and you run into like a roadblock, you're like, oh shit, now I need the solution for this shit. So then you consume that thing that you need to solve this problem with, right? Then you go
Right.
blast again, and you hit another roadblock. You're like, oh shit, I need some information to fix this, right? So
Right, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, it's there's you can make an argument on both sides. Like, yeah, I guess just I don't know how as a blast over consume you can undo that. Like, I feel like I'm always gonna feel that way when it comes to consume.
have you tried going the other way before? Because like consuming first and
Yeah,
then
but it always turns out messy anyway, because something will always happen that the consume didn't even account for. So I'm like, well, fuck this. I could have just went and did it
yeah,
and then figured out what actually mattered and then consume it.
gotcha. So you're a play blast crackhead. So what's that like? For you?
I who knows? I like I think when it comes to being played last, you like you never know how impactful you are until someone tells you. Because I feel like I'm a pretty chill person,
Yeah.
but I've had enough experiences with like even like strangers. They're like, oh, like I remember this one time I was at a gas station and I was like in the play blast mode with one of my friends. We're about to go like snowboarding or whatever. And like I was like in one of my modes and this lady, like I've never met her. She was pumping gas like like 6 feet away, like 12 feet away. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, I wish I had your energy on like a Saturday morning." I'm like what? Like I'm just talking. That's how I felt. I'm like, I'm just talking.
Yeah.
But when I like I was like, okay, I guess when I calibrate myself to how other people are acting around me, I guess I am the most energetic on a Saturday morning, but it feels normal to me.
Yeah. So you're expending all this energy and stuff. Like, do you have trouble sleeping, would you say, with the sleep last?
Um it not trouble sleeping, it's more so I feel guilty sleeping.
How so? Like,
I like I don't know how else to word that. Like I feel guilty sleeping. Like I feel like I'm not doing enough. Which is probably like so I guess maybe that's my savior's talking to me. It's like it feels like it's true. It's like
right.
you're not doing enough to really sleep. Like there's too much shit going on.
So like you lay down in bed, you're like, oh shit, I need to check my phone. There's like something I forgot,
Or
or
something, yeah.
yeah, yeah, okay, okay. No, I can relate to that, man. I do that a lot. I wouldn't say I feel guilty sleeping though. It's more like I want to sleep, but I can't sleep because there's like so much that needs to be done, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, maybe this is where our DEs have locked onto different things. Like for me, it's much more of like a social thing I've locked onto where it's like, okay, successful people like work like 20 hours a day or whatever.
Right.
I like, and that standard, I'm holding myself to that external standard like unconsciously all the time. So it's like I'm like, this feels terrible. Like I shouldn't be sleeping right
I think it's because I read a book called The Powerful Engagement, and they talked about how like you have to switch channels all the time, and you can't just like live in just like
now. Yeah,
So I don't know if you
I
read
mean
that.
I've read that one too, and like I get that, but it's like maybe that's the thing. It's like my let's say my uh tribe or the tribe that my brain has locked onto doesn't agree with that, so I just discount that.
Gotcha. All right. I'm gonna ask you two more questions, man, and then we'll wrap up the interview. I think I asked you everything already, like in terms of your functions and saviors and demons.
Sure.
Did I miss anything? I don't know if I missed anything. Did I not ask you about like any of your parts? Like I think I asked you
Okay, so play, blast, consume.
sleep, yeah, covered that. Masculine, feminine,
Yeah,
covered that. NE,
yeah.
FI, SI, and TE. So we've covered everything pretty much. So let me just ask you this question. So the first question I asked is, what advice can you give to people who are sleep last to work on that sleep processing? We're not talking about like the physical sleep itself. I'm talking
Yeah,
about like
no, I get you.
processing your emotions.
Well, it's I don't know if I'm the right person to ask. Like, um, okay, let me try and form it this way. If I was, I know you're not necessarily asking this, but if I had to give advice to like a teenager with my personality type,
Yes.
it like I think the first thing I would say is in order to become better at sleep processing, you have to you have to stop approaching sorry, you have to stop acting as if other people are God. Like you have to stop that. Like you have to cut other people off. Um and it's going to be very scary to do that because you're going to feel very disoriented and you can be like, well, I don't know what the fuck to do. But I think with sleep processing, you have to begin by by that kind of almost radical movement of stop listening, like stop, like it's like you have to stop listening to other people. You have to like go somewhere where you cannot be disturbed by anyone. And then the second thing tactically I would say is for me it's pen and paper. um I would say writing usually helps because it helps you actually see your thoughts as well, so maybe that's the SI. But you have to then really like you have to assume that there is some type of purpose or some type of role you're meant to play in this world, and you have to really start looking for that until you know what you need to do next. And it has to be a very practical, like, you like, what is the next step my purpose needs me to do, like today or tomorrow, and you just repeat that process. That's what I would say.
Okay, so speaking of purpose, I'm gonna ask you like a more long-winded question now as the final question.
Yeah.
We're gonna use NF and NT and ST for this. So,
Yep.
what is your long-term life plan that you have for yourself? Like what you want to achieve in
Yeah.
life, and like why does it matter for you, and how do you plan on attaining it?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I would say this is the last question, so that's funny. I would say my life purpose is to become I have to become a certain type of person. There's certain characteristics that I associate with it. We don't have time to go into that, but for example, a person with a classical mind, right? Someone who is very narrow, very unhesitating, very precise. Someone who is capable of organizing and executing strategy, like arguably like with military efficiency almost. As well as a person who, this is very NF, oh my god, but like a person who is capable of truly feeling like truly doing great things. I know that's very vague, but I think you have to become that type of person, and then the actions kind of they emerge out of that type of person. So I know that's really vague and very abstract, but for me, my life's task is to become that. And the way I need to do that is, number one, I need to be a lot more patient, because I think in my experience, I would try and rush to, oh, I need to go to school, or, oh, I need to go do this job, I need to do this job, and things would burn out because I was trying to do everything at once. So I would say instead, kind of pace it out. For me, my pace is like 10 years. So within 10 years, there are certain milestones. It's like you have to read, for me, it's like I have to read like certain Greco-Roman works, like some of the classics. Like for me, it's like, and it doesn't even matter where you get that source from. It could be from like the Harvard list, it could be from the Oxford list, but whatever it is, you read that. I need to improve my writing. So there has to come a point where I do take on my blog in more seriousness, write, edit aloud, do that on a daily basis. And then also really consolidate, like for me, really consolidate my views on things. So it would be my views on religion, my views on myself, my views on like different contradictions I have, and just reconcile that. And I think if I were to continuously do that over the span of 5 to 7 years, I would be in a position where I could return to graduate school. And then I would essentially be a force to reckon with, at least in the humanities, probably in the classics, but like maybe like philosophy or something like that. From there, it gets very blurry because I don't want it to stay in the academic space. I want to kind of return to the world and use that practically. I don't know how that's going to be done. But that's a long-winded answer to your long-winded question. So.
Yeah, well, I think the pacing advice is a good one, definitely, for yourself. Anyways, thanks for doing the interview. I'll say bye to everyone, and bye to my type twin. So,
hey, all right, appreciate it.
And